Chairman.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that this bill should be named the Accident Compensation High Time They Paid Back Bill, because for the budget debates of both 2014 and 2015, it's been clear from Treasury advice that there has been a surplus on the ACC accounts, and Treasury has recommended to the government that that be returned to taxpayers in a transparent and equitable way. This bill finally goes some way towards achieving that aim, but it's worth noting in passing, sir, that the government's accounts at budget day in both of the last two budgets would have been seriously worse off, seriously deeper in deficit, had these surpluses not been held on the Crown account to try to achieve surplus. Even then, sir, of course, history has shown that was a vain hope, a forlorn hope, and surplus was not achieved. So let us reflect in this title and commencement part of this committee stage debate, and it is, I think, a specific point that goes to the solvency position in part 2 that we've previously traversed. When changes are made to either the cost structure of the payments under ACC or the payment rates or the way in which claims are managed, and where that impacts on the operating balance of the fund, that balance is then magnified through the actuarial process into the valuation of the fund. And it is that actuarial valuation in turn which shows up changes in it, as you know, sir, on gains and losses on the Crown's operating account. And those can be big numbers. And it is not without cause that a government of the day might await where those numbers are bouncing around between positive and negative, might await a period of time to allow the trend to be clear. What has happened in this case, however, is that that waiting has gone on for at least 2 years longer than officials have recommended was necessary. So we welcome that part of this bill, essentially part 2, because the earners account as of December 2014 was at close to 130% of fully paid, 130%. In January 2015, 121%. In February 2015, 128%. The work account was up to 140, trending to 141. Sir, those are just too high. Now, the other name which is tempting for this bill is the ACC financial return off the backs of suffering Kiwis bill, because I, sir, and I'm sure you and others have also had, cases of people who have been the subject of ACC reviews who've come into, I can still picture one case, sir, came into my electorate office, could barely walk, had been thrown off ACC after a period of time because the injuries to the woman's legs were deemed retrospectively to have been a pre-existing condition. I'll come back to the bill, sir. The reason for that example is that the individual case decisions which affect the cash flows, which affect the operating balance, which are then magnified into the actuarial surplus
but I think
and
the member
deficit.
had better come back to the bill.
In the end, those are human circumstances, sir. Those are New Zealanders, could be anybody's family in this house or out there, who through no fault of their own have come across an accident, hard times, and there is that debate about how that is interpreted, how onerous or punitive the review system should be. And I think most Kiwis are fair people. They want a review system that doesn't allow rorting, but isn't unduly punitive.
The member will resume his seat. He again has taken, I think I indicated, quite a long bow to it. This is not about the review system. That it is quite a narrow clause, and his debate would have been a wonderful debate at second reading or introduction, and probably relevant on the third reading, but not on the technical stage now. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your guidance, and I will reflect upon that. I had thought, sir, that in the title and commencement clause, and one was allowed to summarise up some of the arguments that the previous clause-by-clause parts of the committee stage had touched upon.
If they had done it relevantly, yes.
And as I would have had I been lucky enough, sir, to get a call on the previous part, but thus the summary has occurred under the title and commencement. But be that as it may, I take your guidance, Sir. We support, in committee stage, the passage of this bill. We do it with reluctance in respect of Part 1 because the transparency has been watered down. We do support Part 2, so we think that that is overdue. It has been several years now since this payment has been due to New Zealanders. Thank goodness it's finally happened.
Clayton Mitchell.
Mr.